Jabba'S, Dubsy Bricks, and another episode of Building Jabba'S Palace. And we're still waiting for the parts to come in for the roof section there. According to DHL, they're now in Ireland, so shouldn't be long. Hopefully they will arrive this week, and then we can finally get those towers all finished off. So what we're going to be doing in the meantime is working on sort of like the storytelling down the bottom here, and also doing a few more bits inside the actual palace itself. So without further ado, let's get to it. And here we have our Lego Bantha. So relatively pleased with how it's turned out. We've got the mouth coming down at a very slight angle there, and that is using an illegal build technique. So we've basically put this top brick is attached, the bottom one's not, and then it's just kept together by a plate on the side, and that's enabling it to go down at an angle. And then I've built off of this bottom snot brick. So that's how we've achieved that angle on there. But yeah, it'll do. I've seen a lot better ones on Rebrickable, for example. But for my first attempt at a Bantha, quite pleased with how it has come out. I'm not going to have it so the sand person is mounted on top, because I always feel like, especially with things like this and speeder bikes, that when they're sat like that, when they're supposed to actually be straddling it, it just doesn't look right. So I'm going to leave him so he stood by the side of that. I'm going to start adding the finer details into the palace now, and we're going to be looking at this section just here, which you can see when the dancers are dancing in the throne room. Here's the versions I've made. I would prefer to have put whips on the bottom to look like cables, and sort of like attached them from the back. But obviously where I've built so far into the mock now, it's not possible to put anything into the wall without causing a lot of destruction. So I put the little poles on the bottom here, and that's how we're going to sort of like stand them up. I've started peeling off the tiles off of the floor here, and we're just going to attach them to the floor and put both of them on there, and then that'll just be another detail that will be added in there. So let's get that all done, and we'll check back in once we've done so. There they are, all in place, and I pulled them one stud away from the wall purely so I can fit them in under the arch. Otherwise it wouldn't have worked. I needed to come out over this archway here basically. What we're going to do now, we're going to turn our attention over to this area in front of where Hans hung in carbonite. There's a drummer sort of like playing the drums here, and there's also another musician, a couple of musicians down in sort of like this area here, I think. So we're just going to again look at the footage from Return of the Jedi, and then we'll get those all made up. And here is the latest instrument for Jabba's throne room, and we've used a bit of a snot technique. So obviously the studs on this end are pointing this way, and they're pointing that way on that end. And if I just take these two parts off here, as you can see, we've got a modified plate on this part here, another one there, and when the two overlap together like so, they connect up perfectly. This plate then clips it all in place. If we can do this one-handed. We've got some modified plates here, which is what the hinges are sticking on, or the clips are sticking on. The drum bit itself just goes into the middle, and then push those in, and there we have it. And we've got these little parts here which we're going to be using for making the noise. But yeah, there it is. So we can now add that to the throne room, and that's another one of the little mini details done. Next up, we need to make Max Rebo's instrument. However, I don't actually own a Max Rebo minifigure, which is a little bit disappointed. and there won't be one released by the time I finish making this mock. So whether or not we can make some little creature up out of some Lego pieces, I'm not sure, or whether or not we are able to just put a different character in there as a little joke sort of thing. But anyway, let's make the instrument that he plays, and then we'll show you what it looks like. Sometimes you have to realise you cannot achieve the shape that you wanted to. This is supposed to be circular, and yeah, it's got not one curve on it, but never mind. It's we're just going to have to improvise, and sort of like, this is Max Rebo's keyboard, the circular thing they were supposed to be. I've tried so many different ways, but it's just not working, and it's all because of the corners. If they didn't have sharp corners on there, if we could have like a rounded bit on there, be absolutely fine. But anyway, it's I don't think it's going to really show up that much once it's in the whole mock, so we'll put it in there, and then we've got to try and work out what we're going to do about creating a minifigure for it. But yeah, at least it's another little detail that we can now add to the palace. And the postman has been, and happy days. It is good to see that we have now got these parts in. And this is all going to be for doing the roof section and finishing off the towers of Jabba'S Palace. So this is much needed. And there it is. Brilliant. So we can now finally crack on and get the towers all finished. And here we have our first attempt at the top of this tower, and it's not looking right. I think I need to shallow the angle so it's not as steep on these curves, or sorry, on these panels here. And by doing so, that may also help them to close the gap just a little bit, because the ones underneath here that are lying flat are pretty much touching. So by going up, it does sort of like separate them a little bit. So I'm going to try and bring it down just a smidge on there. This section here was also too tall, but also it's too straight going up. Looking at this picture on screen now, it looks like they are actually sloping, and it's more of a grilled effect. So I very well may try putting some grills on there and shrinking the size of it. It does get a little bit more complicated though, obviously, because we've got 3 bricks here. I can't go 3 bricks on the row behind it because it will knock into this one here. So it really gets complicated when you're trying to sort of like sort things out around this section here. So we're just going to have to experiment with it, see what we can come up with, and go from there. Here we have our revised top section, and much happier with the look of this now. What I've done, I've got a snot brick just here, and then below it is a 1x2 brick which is sat on the hinge pieces. Then we've got a bracket and a 1x2 plate, then a 2x2 plate, and then these grill pieces, which are the sort of like sloped ones on the front of it. And when you pan out, it does have quite a good effect to it. I'm not liking this gap along here. What I might try and do is tile along that section if I can. It's 5 long, so I'm not sure how well I'll be able to do that. But it would be good if we could do so. I might be able to sort of like just put a 3x tile there and then just have a gap on either end. I won't be able to tile from end to end because it will interfere, it will clip onto the next one there, so it just won't work basically. And the tower is almost finished. So once again, we've used some more jumper plates here with some more brackets on there, and then a 3x either plate or tile around the edge just to fill the gaps in on there. Now, the reason these are on a jumper plate and not flush with anything else is purely because I want to put a dome on the very top of it. And we are going to be using this piece here. So it's the Bespin Planet from the Planet series of Series 2. And it's the closest I can get to a dome before going on the top of that. So it's going to be a legal building technique, but let's put it on there and see what it looks like. And there we have the top of the tall tower, and I have to say I'm really pleased with how that has turned out. The planets have got these clips on there which hold the 2 halves together, so unfortunately they are stopping it from being totally flush to this section here. But overall, yeah, it's passable. I'm happy with it. Could have done with being a little bit darker, and then it would have been perfect. But yeah, happy days. Anyway, all we've got left to do on this tower now, I'll put some cheese wedges around here and also some sand details on the bottom of this plate. And then this tower is finished and can go back over onto the mock table. So let's get those finishing touches completed on here, and then we can put this back on the mock table. And after a couple of hundred more pieces, the bottom is done. This is all using 1x1 plates and the 2x1 cheese wedges, just to get the texture and detail in there, but also because it's all the tan plate I had left over. Really pleased with how that's looking. So next up, we're just going to put those cheese wedges around the top there, and then we get this back over to the mock table and show you what it's looking like. And there we have it. The tall tower is all completed and couldn't be happier. It's turned out really well. It's got the look that I was looking for on there. It took a lot of trial and error to get the angles right, to get it all connected together. But yeah, there it is. The planet that we put on, or half the planet that we put on the top there, could have done with being just a little bit darker, but the shape of it is absolutely spot on, and the size of it was perfect as well. Due to the parts arriving so late in the week, unfortunately I wasn't able to do any work on the main tower, so that will be this coming week's job. But I'm sure we get that all finished for next week. And we've obviously done some details inside the palace there. Still got a lot more to do, but again, it's going to be a really good week as we've got so many things that we can crack on with now that we've got the parts in. So yeah, there it is. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the update. If you have, please give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you could share it with as many people as possible, help the channel grow, it would be really appreciated. Anyway, thanks for walking by. See you next time. Bye for now.